Welcome to Ranch Factor Television. Oops. I'd like to show you one way to make a concho like this. Before I start any project, I like to ask the Magic 8 Ball. Magic 8 Ball, will this work? Ask again later. I don't have time for that. I know it's gonna work because I got a hammer. It's a little hammer, but if it don't work, I'll get a bigger one. So, we're gonna make a concho. First thing you need is something to make a concho out of. Depending on what you're gonna build it for or how many you've built, if it's your first one, you might want to use something like some aluminum. You might find that on a boundary sign, say between maybe national forest and private land. You might find that piece of aluminum on the running board of your friend's pickup truck. Anyways, it doesn't matter where you find that. It doesn't matter where you find that. You might go online, get yourself some nickel silver. You might want to make something out of brass. You might have some pieces of brass laying around. Copper. One good place to find copper is the hardware store. Here's a piece of pipe that I got from the local hardware store up in town last time I was there, because getting it out from under the sink didn't really go over so well. This pipe is this long and this big around, and it's this heavy. And you know, you're just gonna have to look at stuff and figure out how thick you're gonna need it, how big a piece of pipe, depending on what you're gonna build. That said, we're gonna look at the next thing that we're gonna need to build our concho, and then we'll come back to this piece of pipe. Use these kind of rings to shape my conchos. You can make a square concho, round concho. This come off of a halter. You can make an oval concho. It just depends on what you need. The beauty of it is that when you're building things, the rings that you use will match the conchos that you use. And I use different size rings to get what I want. That said, that's going to tell us how big we want to cut this piece of pipe. Now if I cut it there and open it up, it'll probably make two of them, or two of them, or two of them. Now if I cut it over here and open it up, it's only going to make one of these. So we're going to go to the vise and do some cutting. We're going to make a concho today that's this size. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it after it's done, but it's going to be something cool. So we're going to start out, and we're just going to eyeball this and say, yep, need to cut it about that much. You want to leave a little overhang on each side so you got plenty to work with. It's better to have too much than too little. Put yourself a little piece of leather around your pipe when you screw it up in this vise so that it doesn't mar it up too much. If it does, don't worry, you can put that on the inside. And there we go. You're going to need a hacksaw, the kind you use to get your partner out of jail with. Maybe with a little less aggressive tread, so because it's going to grab. The first thing you want to do is cut lengthways on the pipe, because you're going to open it up. And I found that if you cut lengthways right now and then cut across it, it's easier. So here we go. And you want it to be a nice straight line. Once again, don't get too hung up on anything. You know, being a cowboy and making stuff this way is kind of by the seat of your pants. And it'll work out. And everyone will get better as you build them. Next, we're going to cut crossways. So what we have is a piece of pipe that's cut lengthways and cut to fit our ring. We've got plenty of material to work with here. And you'll figure out your own way to do this. And I don't do it the same way all the time. Depending on what I'm building and what's handy, I just kind of grab it and make it work. And I'm trying to be careful not to mar it up too much. You'll develop your own style, and when I'm working on different things, I take my time, sometimes more than others. Now I've got it kind of out where I can take it to my good friend the anvil. To flatten this out, a lot of times I'll use a rawhide mallet. Before it's all said and done, I will use my metal hammer to take out any imperfections that I have. It's a long ways from done, so I don't get too hung up on anything right now. If you've got a piece of sheet metal, you're already at this stage and you're ready to go. The next thing we're going to do is introduce this beauty to a ring. Now that we've got our ring set onto our anvil, we're going to take our piece that we're working with and set it over there. And this is a tricky part. It takes a little, you know, monkeying around with it, like learning to shape shoes for your pony. You just kind of got to start tapping down in there. I use the ball peen side, and actually I'm going to get a little bit bigger hammer than that. I like to use the ball peen side to start. There, you're going to establish where that ring is. Holding your material so that it doesn't move, so that you don't lose your spaces. What I like to do is once I start to see that I can see my area there, then I start to tap it back down. It's starting to shape up. I did get a little off on my center, but that's okay because I planned to have a little movement. And so now I'm just going to go right back down here and just keep tapping away on it. And you know, the thing is to enjoy yourself with this and just kind of shape it and look at it. It's kind of like shaping a shoe for your horse. When things get a little too far out of whack, just help it right back where it needs to be. And then once it's squared up again, we're just going to go right back there, nestle that around. It sets down in there, and we're just going to keep tapping away. So far I've been using the ball side. Now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to hit this side, and I'm just going to kind of work around on my edges to kind of bring that dome along that ring. Starting to dome up. Maybe just want to hit it a couple little spots just to make it pretty. Right there and there. This one's nice and flat on the top here. And I'm going to go over here in a minute, and we're going to flatten it off even more and make it really smooth. If you would like a more round concho, you just start in the middle more and just work out slowly so it creates more of a dome. And you don't necessarily work into this area quite as much. You'll need to, but you're going to work more in the center and create more of a dome. It takes a little practice. These nice flat ones are a little easier to make. The nice dome is it takes a lot of time. You got to really work at that. So we have a nice established edge. Our shoulder looks pretty consistent, and we have a nice flat top. Now we're going to move to maybe flattening this out a little nicer, starting to clean it up, and then getting the final shape. I got a little piece of bar stock here with a chap leather glued on it. It helps not mar it up any worse than it is, and it also just kind of helps smooth it out as I hammer on it. We're just going to sand. Just kind of go around here and knock them nasty scratches off it. Give it kind of a brush finish. And depending on how fancy you want to get, is going to depend on how much sanding you're going to do. Going to a finer sandpaper, knocking some more of them rough edges off, making it look a little shinier. And just because we're not going to sand on this thing all day and we're more interested in making the concho, we're going to keep moving. I have one of these little nice sanding blocks. They put a really nice little finish on them when you finally get done sanding with the other stuff. If you have something like this, you can use it to lay your borders out around your concho, around your dome, to make a nice edge. And you can just kind of run it around there. If you don't have something like this, you can go back to your ring. Set your ring on there and just take your marker and eyeball it and draw yourself a nice lip around the edges. Now that we've got this far, we've got to reduce some material and get it off there. So if you have a saw, that's the way traditionally they do that. There's lots of different ways. I have found this is pretty quick and easy. But whenever I cut these out, I always leave a little extra so I got room to work. So now, after tapping around and banging around on this thing for a little while and looking at it and just making sure you got it like you want it, you've got yourself a nice concho that you can scallop the edges on, put some holes in and tack to the back of your cannel. You could fill it with some lead, put a loop on it, put it on your spur strap, or maybe put a screw on it and screw it into your saddle horn. But we have a concho that is ready to do something with, and we built it on the ranch with limited tools. That's a Ranch Factor 10. Oh, see, I was trying to get it just over your head.
That worked.